The story of Liberia begins in America, in communities like Columbus, Georgia, and Eufaula, Alabama.
After the Civil War, Black uncertainty was almost total. They had no money, they had no land, they had no political power. But with freedom came choice. They could leave. They could go to Liberia.
These were not Africans going back to Africa. These were now Americans, and they took the culture and institutions they knew with them, for better and for worse.
It was a family migration and a profoundly young migration. Fully half of all the immigrants were 17 or younger. A third of them were 10 or younger.
But it's not just a Georgia story. This was happening all over the South. This is an American story and an African story.
People also went from Mississippi. They went from Arkansas. They went from the eastern seaboard to Liberia.
It's incredible. More than 500 people, over 10% of all immigrants who left the United States and went to Liberia after the Civil War, came from Columbus, Georgia, and Eufaula, Alabama.
After years of slavery, where African people were brought to this country against their will, now they left as free people to go back to Africa. That is a compelling story to me.
The whole story, really fascinates me because there's a lot of talk, there's some, but to do the research and connect people with parts of Liberia that have family connections. And you've explored for me the families, their names, and looked into the ships they took to connect and then land in Liberia, get the letters back and see where they were, for better or for worse, for good or bad.
Liberian towns resembled American towns, and well-to-do Americo-Liberian families built houses that are reminiscent of the American South. They even built plantation houses.
Here's our dream, to go to Africa, to Liberia, to talk to the descendants from the Chattahoochee Valley and find out their stories. I have a 13-year-old daughter. I want her generation to reflect on the contributions of African Americans. The Liberia connection is a great example of a story that's almost been forgotten. We plan to preserve it and to share it.